welcome back. So, just before the break, we were discussing how we felt about IVF treatment and whether it's a good idea for single women to pursue it and how we feel about it Islamically. And I think we're all in agreement, as usual, that it is a complicated.
Definitely.
It's a subject that really hits the heart, and there are problems, pros and cons to everything. But ideally, I think we agreed that both parents would be good, but check with your managers, I guess, as to what their school of thought is. I'd like to move on, ladies, if I could, to I don't know if you've heard of this lady, but her name is Ayan Harsi Ali. Is that how I pronounce the last name? She's on American television, and she was previously a Muslim person who now states that she's an atheist, and she has mounted quite a public attack on Islam as a whole, scathing attacks on Islam as she promotes her newest book. And much of her outbursts are from her own experiences in life and her own pains, and a lot of physical scars inflicted on her during childhood.
Alleged.
Okay, good to put alleged, because of course this hasn't been verified. So she states that our religion is intolerant and quite radical, but the sect that she was following was quite radical. So what I wanted to ask you is, do you think that we are constantly being attacked in the media? Is there definitely a feeling of Islamophobia? And why do people hate our religion so much?
Well, you know what? It's a speed ticket towards fame. You want to become famous, just go and say, stop talking about how violent Islam is, and talk especially about women, how it oppresses women, and I was a Muslim and I was oppressed, and now I found the light, and now everything's perfect.
And now I've got a bestseller.
Yeah, and now I'm bestseller.
And then the media pounces on people like that to use as a tool to, with their agenda, to use.
I mean, I think that the issue that I've got with this is someone that takes the worst examples of Islam possible, and then writes a book on it, which any of us can do about anything. I mean, you could do it about society in general. You could do it about Christianity. When you get these anti-abortion people and they're blowing up clinics, and we don't hear about
priests.
it.
One of the biggest opponents.
The priests with Catholicism and things like that. If I wanted to find the worst example of every single race, every single culture, I could do that, and I could put it in a book, and I could say these are all the reasons why we should ban this thing. And there's obviously there's some history behind what she's saying. I mean, she's obviously had some really bad experiences, which
is fine. It happens.
Which is fine, but the way it comes across is this is a very, very angry woman. That wants to, have
the
her
world
say,
to know what her feelings are.
And she was, by the way, exposed to have, her lies were exposed because she had lied about her background and things that
wasn't that
happened
for
to
immigration
her.
reasons that she lied about her background?
But I think, as far as I'm concerned, it also revealed that she wasn't, she didn't suffer the things that she said that she had suffered from.
It was her sort of way to escape the country and come here and get asylum, exactly.
Funny because one of the biggest opponents of headscarf in Sweden is an Iranian lady. Same thing. It's an extreme.
But maybe do people not have the right? I mean, this happens when we go through traumatic experiences. We can be very swayed about how we see a group of people. Let's take racism. Something may have happened to us, and we now hate a group of people. Not saying us, but I just mean in general. So. I mean, should we be bothered about what she's saying? When I read her book and just some reviews about her, personally, I think anyone who reads her stuff can see that there's major lags in what she's saying and what she's portraying. And there seems to be a lot of toing and froing because, as she said, she followed a school of thought that was quite rigid and extreme, and she was gung-ho, but then suddenly she hates everything about it, as though she woke up one day and she was given the light, and now she wants to educate somebody else. And I think if you really look at our religion, is that you can see that from 1400 years ago the ideas that came across there, the rights that women had, were pioneering. People were burying their daughters alive.
And it's not about facts, and it's not about reality. It's about, I think it's more to do with hatred and emotions and whatever strong feelings that she has. What was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say.
But again, the media's just used her. They found somebody who's speaking against Islam, and they just playing on it.
I think that's the thing. This is someone that speaks against it, but then you've got people that speak for it. But that's not necessarily what's going to be more successful. I mean, if you look at Islam, and if you actually see the difference in diversity of its followers, you can get an imam following it. You can get an African person following it. You can get an old white woman following it. It's so diverse. There is something for everybody. So for one person to come out and say, it's this, it's that, well, it's the fastest growing religion, so there must be something going on with it.
And you were saying whether we should be bothered by it. Of course, we should be bothered by it, because she is being celebrated as an intellectual woman who is fighting for women's rights and against
the government's been protecting her as well.
Maybe we failed her as a community.
How did we fail her as a community?
Well, let me just put it out there. Maybe she wasn't around people or like-minded women that would say, hold on a minute, you're going through something.
She should deal with her hatred and anger then.
Well, she needs to educate herself.
Educate herself.
Understand her religion.
But maybe if we reached out to her.
You know what, Ruby, I agree with you on that point.
If we reached out to her,
I think that from reading just some of the things about her, the impression I get is that she's very angry. I think
she's angry.
She
simply wants fame.
Yeah, I have that exactly. Or it was her excuse to come out of that country and seek asylum here.
Maybe.
I mean, who knows?
Become a celebrity.
Personally, for me, I think that this is someone I'd love to have a sit down with and have a cup of tea and have a slice of cake and just hash it out.
But it's not feasible. You see, he's not going to pay her money. That's not going to pay her, Francesca.
True. There's nothing. As in, I think the point that I'm making is there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, this is something I don't agree with, but don't. You're talking about Islam putting a gender on everybody else. Why are you putting your agenda on us?
And I'm not oppressed in any way or form, so please don't speak for me.
She once said Islam has to be defeated, and when they asked her, when the journalists told her, do you mean militant Islam? She said no, Islam, full stop.
Right.
Okay.
So she obviously
she has
either that issues. She's got issues. Exactly.
Reach out to people with issues.
Okay, well, we're reaching.
But what if she doesn't want to listen? I'm sure plenty of people
at your house.
I'm sure plenty of people have tried, obviously, to re-educate her. But maybe she just doesn't want to know.
It's an easy way to fame.
You
want to become famous. Start talking about Muslims and Islam and women's rights and
let's forget about her. Let's forget about her for a minute. And let's just look at the wider picture. You can't, everywhere you walk around there is some Islamophobia. Have we brought this on ourselves?
How?
Well, for example, should we just take it back to 9/11 and the whole Twin Towers
Why
thing?
do you say we? I mean, you see, when we say we, have we brought this upon ourselves?
Like
I don't know. So those terrorists, they brought,
that's the question. Have we, or is it
us?
Well,
I
that's
didn't.
the question I'm putting out there.
Do you support any?
I wasn't taking part in that party.
Exactly.
So
I was in bed at the time.
Well,
no one asked me. No one came and
so
took my consent. Can we blow up the Twin Towers?
I'll say, no,
I didn't sign for it.
We signed the petition.
The whole Muslim community can't be held responsible for some.
Exactly.
But the argument that many people give, and I'm going to take it to give. I'm going to take it to Bill Meyer, whatever. He's a TV presenter on one of the American news channels, which I want to say is Republican and who is very Bible Belt, very conservative led. And
Isn't he an atheist?
It's Meher, sorry, Bill Meher. So what I wanted to say was maybe his argument is that with Muslims, and I'm not saying I agree with it, a lot of the time we do not assimilate. We do not go out our way to, mingle with our community.
A minority.
I agree. A
minority, I agree. With anything. Like you get some Christian, some Christian practices.
But his argument is how many Christian people are going round severing heads.
I don't know. Have you heard of what's going on? Have you heard of what's going on in Africa?
Obviously, he
Have you heard of what's going on in Africa, where you get these
yes, I do know about the
extreme Christian groups as well that are going around and blowing people up and stuff like that. But it's not in the media. What's in the media is a brown man with a beard went into a shop and he raised his voice. Good Lord, it's extremism. It's this kind of attitude, and I think it's
just
so
being played
easy.
on.
It's so easy for someone to jump on board and say that.
Political circumstances basically allowed for that path to happen, you know, to be there, basically. I mean, you know, whatever reasons that there are out there, you know, whatever goals there are, agendas that there are, you know, it plays into it.
I mean, why would you have a problem with anyone? This is, and I say this to my colleagues as well, and my, you know, people that I know that are non-Muslim. If you're, I don't really care what you believe in. If you're a good person, you're a good person. It is as simple as that. And the majority of people actually have that attitude, but there is a minority of people, like there are a minority group of Muslim people, that have a problem with people that are different. They have a problem with people that have different religions, that are different colours, that come from different races. And what you're doing, you've got a minority focusing on another minority, but apparently it's all of us. And it's like, hang on a minute.
Again, unfortunately, it's being highlighted unnecessarily. It's just being highlighted.
And it's not true. It's simply not true.
We live in a time where in the Middle East it's a problematic area. Unfortunately, we live in this time now, and we simply have to deal with. You know, that we're going to have to suffer. But you know, being
Muslims.
It's
the same way that the Catholics and with the Protestants and Catholics in the 70s and the IRA. My neighbour is Irish. Maybe I should be worried that they're doing something.
I think it all boils down to politics.
Well, that did happen during that time, during the IRA,
and now it's passed over. I think Muslims have got a little bit, you know, we're going to have the spotlight on us for a little bit longer.
Yeah, but I do have to say...
just have to take it. But then, do we really have to apologise and keep being apologetic?
No, because I wasn't there.
But
I do think
doing enough?
I do think we have a social responsibility to come out. I don't like people interfering.
To educate people.
That's what I mean. I don't like people...
to educate people.
To educate people and to be... Turn up to work every day, do your job like we did before, and not have to be accountable for these things. But we do have a group in our society who do stay in their little corners and do want to bring in Bethnal Green. Do you remember? There was a group of people led by some mosque over there that wanted to introduce Islamic law in the middle of London.
Yes.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yes.
No, it was.
A few teenagers who, God knows,
exactly.
you know.
And that was like, my God, they were stopping people and saying you're not dressed appropriately.
Yes, they were like Sharia police.
But we do have a section of our community who do not want to be.
It's barely a section. It's like a couple of guys. Was it?
Well, not Bethnal Green. I'm talking about other areas in England that are heavily, they may be Indian, they may be Middle Eastern, who do not want to assimilate.
Absolutely. And you know
people
what?
are intimidated by them.
And we have that, but do you know why? For every time that there is a reaction, there is a cause. And I think what people forget to realise is that, these Muslims and these immigrants have come along and they don't learn English and blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. But what you forget is the history that goes behind this. These are... You know, you go into some parts of London and it is predominantly Asian or whatever it is, and those people have fear for the outside world, because when those people have experienced prejudice, they've been discriminated against, and fear breeds fear and hate. It's as simple as that. So what people need to do is start breaking down barriers and start talking. And you know what? For all the bad people, there are 10 good people out there that are doing a lot of hard work. We never get coverage for it. We never get the press for it, of people saying, this was, with the thing with the attacks in Tunisia, no one came out and said that it was the Tunisian Muslims that worked in the hotel that stopped the gunmen from coming in and killing the tourists.
Well, I didn't hear anything of
that. But that's what I'm saying. But no one said that. But what they did say was that these Muslims are coming on the beach and blah, blah, blah. They're shooting everyone. But no one, and those people didn't get any recognition. And the people that came out and spoke about them were the tourists that were in the hotel from the UK that said that these guys stopped these gunmen from coming in and killing us.
So do you feel
that won't sell? That simply won't sell.
Because these are brown Muslims and and it just doesn't sell. So for every bad one, there's at least 10 or 20 good ones. I'm sorry, and that goes for all of society. But that goes for all of society. Like, I've got some lovely Christian neighbours. Well, I tell you what, there are some real wacko ones out there as well that are doing crazy stuff.
I guess what Tamara was saying is when is enough is enough. Why should we always be apologising for our existence and trying to prove our Britishness?
I mean, I think if we're working, we're mingling in with all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds, I think conversations should be held. Yeah. I mean, I bring it up as a subject at work, and we hold the conversation, and then things are brought to their attention. Actually, this isn't how it really is. This is how it is, and this is what Islam teaches us.
But what's also interesting is in the media, you don't only get this backlash from non-Muslims, you get it from Muslims as well, who this sect or that group is saying, well, they're not really Muslims, or I don't really like Muslims as a whole because they're very close-minded and they might be very liberal, you know, whatever, going to the pub with friends or whatever. So it's not only, I don't think it's fair to just say this is just, you know, the press going overboard with why do people hate Muslims. There's a lot of Muslims who can't stand themselves either, you know, which is true.
But then why don't we rephrase it and not say, why do people hate Muslims? Why don't we just say, why do people hate people? Because actually that is what you're hating on. You're hating on characteristics within a person.
Because I'll say at the moment...
Sometimes they will say that I've got this characteristic because I'm a Muslim. But actually anyone with any real
but again,
sense.
it's all happening now more than ever before. Why? Again, political instability in the Middle East is affected us all.
And when we have the argument at work, they'll say, stop bringing politics into it. Bring humans, you know, common sense, sense of decency. Why does it always have to be some political argument?
Like whatever, Iran does something or Syria does something, and then it's like, oh, Shias are doing this, Saudi does something and the Sunnis are doing that. Well, in fact, it's the country that's doing it, not necessarily the sect itself. Do you get me? It's like,
and then if you go back into it, it's government and then the political agenda between governments and stuff like that. As you start going back into
stuff going on.
And obviously when people are aware of it, they want to fight back. They want to, you know.
So how do we stop this type of negative attention, especially against Islam? And it's almost like you said, that when you speak about Muslims, we all must be Wahhabis, Salafis, joining ISIS.
You're never going to get rid of it, ever, because human beings pick up on other things to do.
So
when
we should
there's
do
difference.
nothing?
No, I'm not saying that we're doing nothing, but like, you know, for example, we're sitting here now, our lovely set and our lovely mugs, and we're having a nice discussion about all the things that
and we're drinking tea, so that makes us British.
It does make us British. So we're talking about all the things with milk, all the things that affect us. And you know, I think we are already doing it. I mean, you go to any of the universities, we've got really, you know, good, strong, active youth society, you know, groups within the universities that are saying, hang on a minute, it's Ramadan, let's go out and feed the homeless. We don't care where you're from, we don't care.
We need to set examples ourselves.
And we are
it's not just by talking, with our actions as well.
And we do.
And there is some,
I think they put a lot of pressure on the Muslim communities to do more and keep doing more, but we are doing. It's not being acknowledged. And in fact, we're constantly being looked at as we're a threat, or we are
suspicious.
You know,
and especially when you do something, it's like, okay, well, what are your motives? Maybe you're trying to convert us. It's like, no,
the funny thing, especially as a Shia community, you know, we don't have that problem of radicalization, whatever. Or, you know, anyone joining ISIS, obviously, for obvious reasons.
But some people could say joining Hamas.
Hamas is not Sunni. It's not a Shia.
Do you mean Hezbollah?
Hezbollah, yes, that's the one.
There we go.
Begins with H, you know.
H and H, it's all the same. They're all the same. But
how many stories do you hear of people going and joining Hezbollah?
Join Hezbollah. It's not
even... how many stories have you really heard?
Never. But here, it's not even a problem that the Shia community is facing. You know, we don't hear of any teenagers, you know, traveling to Syria to join ISIS from the Shia community. Obviously, if you go there immediately with no questions, you'll be beheaded probably. But then we still, as Shia Muslims, as Muslims, we still have to deal with it. We have no choice.
We just need to put these differences aside and focus on what's really, really important, which is human life, which is just people in general, just humans in general, and how we should be living in peace with each other. stop focusing on these differences so much. I think that's where the problem lies.
I was going to say it's easy to say, but
it is. But when you're out there speaking to people, when you're in public and you're working and stuff like that, then it's your responsibility as a Muslim then to, because I do get people throwing questions at me and asking me, well, what's this, what's that, and then I can then try and say, well, actually, this is how it is and how it should be, and this is what the Quran says.
But then
they'll
say to you, not everybody, but they're not like you. Like you're different.
You're different. This
you're
is
different,
but
my neighbour,
I have a Muslim
Abdul
friend.
Josh, is completely different. So you're different. They're not like you. You're liberal. You're open-minded.
So
I just
but the majority.
But then a majority is
like
majority is.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, but we are. And, I was having a conversation. Majority
is like
are
that.
normal.
Yeah. Definitely.
As unexciting as that is.
I don't really want to be normal.
No, but I'm having a conversation with my colleague at work, and he was saying to me, I've spoken to my Muslim brothers and sisters, and they're telling me about ISIS, and they haven't got nothing to do with your religion. And I was like, oh, thank you. It's amazing that you can.
Thanks for doing that cross check.
Yeah, thanks for just checking in with me there. But the majority of people, we have this idea that. I was away a couple of weekends ago, and the guy in the hotel actually said, what religion are you? To myself and a group. Well, and I was really surprised because I thought, oh, surely he would know.
Well, you can't ask that.
No, but surely you'd thought he would know because, when Muslims
you're wearing
and our scarf, we've got scarves on, and he genuinely didn't know. And what I was saying to my friend is, I find that really interesting because in my head, I think that everyone thinks that Muslims are going around blowing themselves up, causing mischief, blah, blah. But actually, this guy, it was only in Brighton.
Really?
It was in Brighton. This guy was like,
were you smiling and joking and being friendly?
We were being,
maybe that's why.
Were you just being normal?
I was being normal, and he said, "Oh, I don't know what."
Maybe you didn't have your beard on or something.
Maybe the backpack, maybe. But he was, I was really taken back by it because I was like, "You didn't know," and he was like, "No," and quite frankly, he didn't care.
Well, we shouldn't care.
No, but what I'm saying is that we get it in our heads. We've got to be paranoid. We've got to be out there doing this and doing that. But hang on a minute. Why do we need to be?
On the flip side, every morning when I walk into work, they want the Muslim perspective from me. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't have an opinion. I just want to sit down and do. Well, why are they doing this? Which is so different.
My job and go back home.
And it's like, well, what do you think?
I personally take it as a responsibility to go out there and educate people if they have any queries about Islam and they have any doubts. I personally take that on board, and I do feel that I have to educate these people and let them know.
We feel obliged to do it.
I think it's wrong.
Sometimes I want to go in a coffee shop.
You just want to be a human being.
I do. I love it.
I don't want to be acting well.
You need a business card with all the main points that you can just hand out.
Exactly. I'll do a business card. But when I'm in Cafe Neuro, I just want to have a cup of coffee. I don't want the waitress asking me about, your scarf is orange. Could you do that?
Yeah.
I just want a coffee. I don't always want to feel that I'm the ambassador. I know Islamically it says that we have to be, but sometimes I just want a coffee to
Which is fine. I
just want a coffee.
You put your feet on the seat in front of you on the bus and
God, never.
Yeah, that's it.
So
you're saying that we need to go out there and we need to educate. Oh, I don't want to be honest. Not all the time.
Do you know what I think? I think we just need to be ourselves.
We can't.
No,
we're not allowed.
We're not allowed.
No,
if you're too quiet and if you're too shy, then you're a poor oppressed woman.
You can't speak the language, Francesca.
But I think that myself every day. But that's not true because I go to work and I sit in an office with a mixed group of people, male and female, different religions, different races, and I interact with them on a normal level. And they don't turn round, and from the way I conduct myself, they are not questioning whether I'm going to come in with that confetti bomb
in your gym bag.
In my gym bag, exactly, or do anything like that. So I get what you're saying to an extent, but I think sometimes we get really paranoid about it.
I think also social media plays quite a big role. Yeah. Like, you go online, you read an article, and you read, I don't know, sometimes there are articles like The Guardian, whatever it is, on Facebook, and you see the comments there. and the comments mostly, I don't know, but that it tends to be the comments online are mostly hostile.
Yes.
And,
but that's
and
like, but
negative.
Playground. That's like being in the playground and someone saying, you know what, your mum's fat, and you responding with, well, your mum's fatter.
And the most hateful comment usually like has 500 likes on it, and then you think, wow, am I walking around like people who hate me everywhere and I don't even know? And it's just, but it does take it does affect you.
But the reality is that people have a problem regardless of whether you're a Muslim, you're a Jew, you're a Christian, whether you're big, you're small, whether you're male, you're female. Every single thing has a problem, and I think what happens is we become so focused on it that we get distracted from the things that are really important. Like,
absolutely.
You know, I've got daughters. My daughters have, you know, two different heritages. You know, I'm English, their father's from the Middle East, and they're also Muslim. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? As long as they are happy and they're comfortable, and they know that in this country.
How would you feel about them when they start wearing the scarf, when they reach an age and they wear the hijab? If
they choose to do, that is entirely up to them. I know for myself.
Would you feel worried about them? Would you feel that they might get discriminated against? Would they get the jobs that they aspire?
But as a female, and being a female that has not worn the scarf and has worn the scarf, I've had discrimination from both sides. I've had discrimination because I've got on a train and my clothes have been in a certain way, and a man has thought it's appropriate to approach me in a certain way. And I've also been discriminated against because I'm wearing a scarf and somebody else has thought that I'm going to approach you and discriminate against you in this way. So I've had both, and you know, I think the main thing for me and the most important thing for my daughters is, look, you be yourself. And if you're
be confident about your choices,
as long as you're not
whatever you choose, be confident about it.
It's all about how you conduct yourself.
And educate yourself about your choices too, because sometimes we make choices, but we're not really educated about it. We kind of ignorant. We make a choice, but we're ignorant about it, and that's why, you know, deviations happen and bad things happen. Because of lack of education.
Really interesting discussion, ladies, as always. We've run out of time. Inshallah, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you on the other side. Assalamu alaikum.
If you have been affected by any of the issues raised in Ladies First, then the following organizations may be able to provide help and advice.